I learned SQL for free in 17 days while working as a full-time engineer. Now, I'm a huge fan of learning new things, especially when coworkers and other people are talking about new programming languages or software like VBA, Python, or SQL. So let's go over 4 steps so you can learn SQL as well. The first step is to pick a course. So there's a couple courses out there like Free Codecamp, Codecademy, or Khan Academy, but I had a couple criteria I had in mind. For one, I wanted it to be free. I also wanted it to be interactive, beginner friendly, and be able to cut it up into small pieces since I was going to put this in a long stretch of time. Free Codecamp was the first one I looked at because it was free. The only downside, it wasn't super interactive, like there was no interface where I could type code in it to check it. It was all just on YouTube. It was beginner friendly and it was able to cut up into small pieces because there were timestamps. So I'll link that below if you're interested, but I chose to scrap that course. Codecademy was the second course I entertained because it was free, relatively interactive where you could type in code, and beginner friendly. However, it was really hard to tell if I could cut it up into pieces. I really wanted it to be able to do 30 minutes a day so it wasn't like an all-day thing or a 2-day thing because I wanted to span it out throughout a stretch of time. Now, the one I ended up going with was Khan Academy because it was free. It had this interactive interface where you could type and then it would tell you the results on the right-hand side, which was kind of exciting. It was also beginner friendly, like it's an introductory class, so I thought that was good. And then it was easily chopped up into small pieces. Like it was very clear to tell that you do the lecture and then you do the challenge, and then it's lecture and challenge. Now, the second step is to cut the course up into 30-minute segments. So what that means is basically look at the course and try to chop it up into several days. You don't want to do this all in one chunk of time because you're going to get burned out. You're not going to want to do it. So I'm trying to sprinkle it around, especially because I had a full-time job. So basically what I did is how I approached it is the first section I did all in the first day because it was like the introductory part and it was pretty easy, simple lectures, not really hard. And then once you got into the second set, there were basically a challenge underneath a lecture. So you could do a lecture and then challenge, and you basically could take those together, and that's equivalent to 30 minutes of work if you're like pausing and editing and pausing and coding and all that. So that's how I did it, and that's how I got it to crunch down into 17 days. Now, the third step is to time block your calendar. This comes from a book called Deep Work by Cal Newport, which I constantly recommend to people, but he swears by it, and so do I. So basically the idea here is you wake up in the morning, you know exactly when you're coding because you time blocked it the day ahead. So you don't have to think, oh, should I code now or should I code in the evening? Whatever. But I ended up coding in the mornings consistently just because it was the hardest thing of my day because it was like, oh God, I have to sit down and code and it's gonna be rough. So I always like to get it done in the morning, but you can see my calendar here and how it's coded out. Okay, so the last and final step is to finish the course. I know this sounds simple, but we all procrastinate, and there were days where I was like, oh no, I do not want to sit down and struggle through some code right now after I had a long day of work, but you just have to finish. And that's why I broke it up into the 30-minute intervals, because I'm like, okay, you can do this. 30 minutes is not that hard. And that's how I got myself to get to the computer and be like, okay, we're just gonna watch the 4-minute tutorial and do the little baby challenge. Like, it's not that hard. So just convince yourself that it's fun, you're learning, and 30 minutes, just start. Just say, hey, I'm just gonna start, and if I hate it, then you can stop. So I did that for about 17 days is kind of what I roughly calculated, but it was actually shocking how fast I got through that class. So that was 4 steps on how to learn SQL using the free Khan Academy. If you're interested in learning what I call the semester technique and what I do to approach my goals, click here. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time.